Welcome back to Casual Round 8 of the European Championship 2015, where I'm joined now by Matt Bell. Welcome back.
Sup?
What's up? You are super casual. Can you even see anything?
Absolutely nothing. I can't even see the screen, so I'm going to have to take these off. But I kind of like them.
Yeah. In our last match for the day, the round number 8, we got Chris Bountaloudis, Greek champion, in fact, because he was the European champion 2013, going up against Nicolas Petz. These guys couldn't really wait, so let's take you straight to the table before we can do any intros. And because this is a Satellar night mirror match, and the action is already underway. Chris on the left-hand side and Nicolas on the right-hand side. So we saw an opening, somewhat defensive, with 3 face-down cards and a monster for Chris. And Nicolas is now, it's his first turn, the second turn of the whole game, and he's trying to, well, gain the upper hand, really.
Yeah, he's getting his first Dinab search off, which is going to start the flow of the Satellar monsters, and he's getting his first XC summon. In the Tellarknight deck, actually setting a monster is usually considered pretty weak, but we should note that Chris is actually playing Fire and Ice Hand, which is most likely going to catch Nicolas off guard. And yeah, we're going to see a Mind Crush being flipped to take out the searched Altair, I believe that was. Yeah, it looks like it. It's a little bit of glare. That's one of the fun things of using lights in reflective sleeves.
We haven't seen Tellarknights all day. Is it one of the decks that you have to have on the radar for this tournament, or do you think they are going to be like not as competitive as they should be?
On the list of the main decks that you can play, I rate them as one of the lower decks, and one of the main reasons for that is that they're both playing extremely high trap counts. So talking 18, 19 traps in both of these decks respectively. And Denko Sako, as we've seen in the earlier rounds, as being a massive lockdown.
Especially useful against this deck.
This type of strategy, yes. It's very traditional. We'll walk you through the game very slowly, saying I'm going to set a bunch of cards and you're going to have to deal with them. Zephyr is also being played by Nicolas. He's playing both the Zephyr Tellarknight monsters, which can give him removal of face-down spells and traps and face-up monsters and face-up cards. A really cool thing about that is, just trying to remember which one is which. I've got these lists at the front. It's Tellarknight Zafricon. It's a 1900 monster. It has the ability to destroy face-down spells or traps if you destroy another Tellarknight. So you can use that to start attacking the spell and trap zone of the other Tellarknight deck.
All right, so here we see some back row cards being activated. As you said, they play a very, very big role in this particular matchup.
It's all about timing on this one. Choosing the exact moments to try and cut your opponent off. The game, this type of game can be decided like 5 or 6 turns before it actually concludes, based on how you use your spells and traps. Unlike many other decks where your mistake is immediately noticeable, in a mirror match of heavy back row, it'd be one of those ones where you look back at it and go, actually, I should have held back the Fiendish Chain, or something like this.
So is it a good choice to play this deck in a tournament with so many rounds when you need to make those decisions, these clutch decisions, very fast?
I feel that the...
This is actually the first game with Trevor coming down.
That's actually an excellent Trevor, because it's also getting back...
yeah, it's not the end, of course. He returns everything,
Yeah, he should be getting back the field spell and then replaying it, getting him another search. So he's getting the reuse out of his Fiendish Chain. That's a really excellent Trevor, because he's cleared that field, so he's going to get the shot in on the life points, and he gets to take a card out of Chris's hand. While Chris has a lot of cards, again, every option he takes away is...
Yeah, he doesn't have to deal with it later on.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's going to be happy to see any purple card going into the graveyard from here. Yeah, Fiendish Chain, reinforcements in the army, maybe less so. Call the Haunted. Honestly, in fact, any of those cards would be happy to see him go to graveyard. In fact, Firehand will give away a lot of information if he hits that, because he'll immediately know when his opponent's setting cards what it is. But yeah, there it is. Firehand.
Wow, fortune teller, Matt. All right, so the Firehand being sent to the graveyard. Not everybody's playing these in the main deck.
No, they've been used a lot in the side deck to deal with Cliffort, because it's got a great way of dealing with the spells and traps in the deck. And the Fire and Ice hand is very good in this sort of sluggish, these back row drag down brawls, because they keep triggering over and over and they let you take lots of cards out. So we're going to see that reused Fiendish Chain to stop the Unocal High, which is going to cut Chris off from sending a Satellar Knight from his deck, which he's probably going to try and send his D-Nub so he can start getting that back and getting his engine running.
So in a way, Nicolas has stolen the initiative here. It feels almost like he goes first now.
Yeah, I think he gains quite a bit of, that's Oasis of Dragon Souls, getting another Altair, which gets back D-Nub, but that sets him up for a rank 4 next turn. That resolving that trivia has given him a lot of information, and it's given him the reuse of his continuous traps to further press the game. So yeah, Chris taking a moment to read the Zephyr card.
And also these two guys, they're currently around 50th place, both of them. So if they lose, there is a chance, it's not 100%, but there is a chance that they're not going to make the cut for the second day. So this is one of the reasons, or actually the main reason, why we wanted to feature this match rather than we had a couple of other matches at the first few tables.
Even more information taken away as a Trivia's second hit is Honest, which will allow him to attack, and he's going to summon his Zephyr monster, which is, does he choose to use the effect? Chris taking a moment to read it. That's the one that destroys face-up cards. We can just pull that one up, actually.
The Zephyr Xyton.
That's the one.
And it seems like the unique choices that Nicolas is going with are really paying off here. Yeah,
that's actually the one that destroys face-down spells and traps. So, yeah, we're going to see a Fiendish Chain flipped up by Chris. But yeah, it seems to be going... Nicolas seizing the advantage a little bit early on here, and he's already got his D-Nub searches going off, whereas Chris hasn't started yet. Okay, so we're seeing another trap card flip. That's Call of the Haunted. Wow, another D-Nub search. Nicolas is just getting further and further ahead here. He just has to keep the pressure on and not let Chris get back into the game.
And how do you feel when you're going into a feature match and you know this is it? If I lose, I might be out of the competition.
Oh, really nervous, to be honest, especially when I'm playing a high decision deck like Satellar Knights with lots of these. Oh, it's another trivia. All those continuous cards. Okay, we're going to see Mind Crush. But yeah, I'd be extremely nervous coming into playing on the live stream, because you know you can watch a lot of people and it's quite critical when you've got perfect information and you can say, oh, why did you do that? Or if your deck just doesn't perform, like Marcelo earlier. And that's kind of a letdown, because his record was really good at the time.
Yeah.
And his deck just didn't fire, and it can be just a bit embarrassing. So it can get into players' heads, and then they can talk themselves out of making the correct plays. They go, oh, but then if he has that, I might look really bad for not making the right read.
All right.
Yeah, I think Chris...
Nicolas should have taken the first game.
Yeah, Nicolas, I believe, won that, and Chris picked up his cards, the second trivia.
And what cards are going to be introduced from the side decks now? Because I don't think that these guys have been preparing for the mirror match too much. I think these decks are more designed to beat Necros, of course, and maybe also Burning Abyss.
Yeah, I mean, the Flying Seas do still prevent the opponent from Xyz summoning, so you can cut off the Talonites. I mean, one of the big reasons it's so good against Burning Abyss is because then if they try and summon a Burning Abyss monster, they destroy themselves, because a Flying Sea is not a Burning Abyss monster. You don't have that advantage in this match. There are wiretaps in both players' side decks, so it does imply to me that they have been practicing back row heavy matches. To bring in wiretap, especially when you're expecting the main deck Necros to play no trap cards.
Right.
There's also Mystical Space Typhoons in Nicolas's deck. He's playing Anti-Spell Fragrance, although that's probably unlikely to come in.
A single copy of it. So basically we have two kind of different builds of the Satellar Knight deck, don't we?
Yeah, I actually really like Nicolas's version, because he's getting the extra power from Oracle of the Zephyr, which he's only playing one copy of to search for his Zephyr monsters, but he's getting that extra like when you play this card effect. from the trivia, and then he's getting the discards, which are actually very relevant in this matchup. Well-timed Fiendish Chains. He's also playing the extra breakthrough skill, as opposed to Chris is only playing 2, Nicolas is playing 3. I think his deck is slightly better positioned to face off against Chris. I mean, because it is a mirror match, it comes down to experience and the way the cards come out, but Nicolas's deck is looking slightly advantageous.
What deck would you say is better equipped to beat Nicolas?
In the whole format?
Yeah.
I think looking at it, Burning Abyss is probably the best deck because you've got such a variety of trap cards that you can choose. You can tailor your deck to different ways, and now that players got used to playing around the Trishulas with Burning Abyss, and they've gone a lot smarter now. They're playing the discard traps, and they're baiting their opponents into making poor decisions, and they're able to keep their resources running until the Necros deck eventually runs out of mirrors. They can get to that extreme late game and still perform, whereas the Necros deck don't. So I actually think Burning Abyss are probably the best equipped to knock the Necros deck out, even if there's a lot of other decks that are quite strong against it. We saw heavy back row Clifford falling prey to the Book of Moon and Exeter Knight earlier. So that deck should be positioned well, but it's plays like that that just break the entire game wide open.
Right. So now we have our 2 volunteers, Mike and Ryan, back at the table, and they're taking down the contents of these guys' respective hands.
Yeah, we'll let you know what happens as soon as that loads in.
And if you lost the first game, would you want to go first the second game?
Against heavy back row decks, I probably want to go first so I can put all my cards down first and actually get my plays not interrupted. But Chris decides actually the extra card is
more relevant,
more important than the setup here.
Okay, so he lets Nicolas go first.
I guess he's considering that if they just make 1-for-1 trades the whole time, the extra card is more important. It will depend who gets down to all their search cards.
So he starts with a Unukalhai, sends something to the graveyard. It's super shiny.
That's probably Satellar Knight Deneb, because that's the one you get back with Altair.
And then he does have an Altair in hand. The card you just mentioned sets a warning in the Oasis of Dragon Souls, and that's his turn. And Chris starts with a Fire Hand, attacking into the Unukalhai.
Yes, and that's going to allow him to get the Ice Hand out. I have to take note that he didn't use the
Solemn
Warning, so there's a good chance that Chris may not consider that Solemn Warning later on when he's trying to decide what the back row cards are.
And why would he hold on to that Solemn Warning?
To flip it this early against a hand which is not particularly threatening you, and you can out it with Satellar Knight, Altair getting you rank 4 play. Now here we go. We're going to see a Deneb activating.
Coming back thanks to the Oasis of Dragon Souls.
These traps, these continuous traps are so powerful in this deck since Trevor came out. I hope I am pronouncing that name correct, actually.
It should be Trevor, yeah.
Yeah, Trevor. So how does he get around this Ice Hand is going to be the interesting thing, because I'm sure he doesn't want to lose his Solemn Warning.
Yeah. And then the back row of Chris, of course, is a Fiendish Chain, Stellar Nova Alpha, one of the cards that really make this deck come together, make it work, and a Mind Crush.
Yeah, okay, yeah, so we're seeing Fiendish Chain, and that's Abyss Dweller. Abyss Dweller going to be able to activate its effect and destroy the Ice Hand without causing it to activate. And the rest of his face down cards, the Telenova Alpha, one of the big weaknesses of playing the hands is that you can't use Telenova Alpha on the hands. Although you can't use them on the Zephyr cards either, because you can't send them to the graveyard for the cost to go back to the extra deck.
So basically a good way to work around the hand. Maybe even better way, definitely better way, I guess, than the Solemn Warning, because you don't lose life points and you got a monster on the field now.
Yeah, and he gets to hold that warning back for the more important play when Chris commits to it. The Abyss Dweller here is also, he's got quite a bit of information that there's not a... Oh, here's going to stop the Vega. He lets him... yeah, and there's going to be the...
Stellar Nova Alpha. Yeah, because Chris wouldn't want to lose another turn. He wants to draw another card and find more defense. I guess.
Yeah, I mean, his other card in this Spell and Trap Zone is Mind Crush, which can stop Nicolas, but it doesn't stop what he's currently got on the field.
Yeah.
And taking some more direct attacks is going to put him way too low, and he's going to have to then deal with such unfavorable trades, so he falls out of the game.
He would have lost that monster anyway, so why not tribute it away?
Yeah.
But wait a second.
Hold a second. He just tributed a monster that wasn't in play.
Exactly, because the Solemn Warning is in risk.
Yeah, of course. The Solemn Warning would negate someone, so that actually is an illegal play.
Yeah, because the monster never hit the field.
Yeah, I kind of feel a bit silly missing that now. Yeah, so that actually, this play shouldn't be going through because he didn't have the monster to send to the graveyard.
Right, because Stellar Nova Alpha, as we said, you need to have a Tellarknight or Set Tellarknight on the field.
Yeah, I can see how they miss it because it's like, oh yeah, it's a counter trap matching a counter trap, but then it's like he hasn't actually resolved that summon. Oh wait, no, he would have resolved it if he summoned the. He summoned it and then activated. Effect? Yeah, he summoned it and then he activated the special summon effect, and then Solemn Warning was used. Then he would have it on the field, and that must have been what's happened here. Not rather than.
Is it the correct decision to use the Solemn Warning on that effect rather than the summon itself?
It's really risky to do that, if I'm honest, because you do open yourself to the Stellar Nova Alpha, but it gives away information for your opponent's hand when if they activate the effect, because then they're basically telling you, I have a monster I wish to special summon. So
apparently, I think Nicolas wanted to bait out Stellar Nova Alpha. Otherwise, he could have just activated it right away, the Solemn Warning.
Potentially, if he made that read. Oh, we're seeing Flying Sea, which is going to block all XC summons.
I think was Mind Crush used to discard it?
Mind Crush was used to...
I think Mind Crush was...
Yeah, Mind Crush was activated.
But I cannot imagine that he called Flying Sea.
No. He discarded the Zephyr monster that we can see in the graveyard, and then Chris has played Flying Sea to prevent Nicolas performing any XC summons. Because he could go for a Trevia here if he wanted to and clear the field out. But that's not going to be a possibility with Flying Sea in play.
Right, so this looks extremely promising for Nicolas. And what can Chris do to fight back here?
So, what does Chris have in his hand at the moment? Is he pretty empty? He's got an Altair, so he's got... If he can get the D-Nub off the field, which is actually what he's doing, he's making a trade with his opponent's D-Nub so he can get the Altair, and he's got the access to the free material Exy summon, and he's got a search. So he could go for Trevia here if he wanted to clear the field up and then take a card out of Nicolas's hand, or he might go Dialtros and try and start sniping at cards.
It seems like, is that his only option?
Yeah, he's
going for it, yeah.
Because that then makes his Fiendish Chain and his Oasis of Dragon Souls
recycling the whole deck, basically. So all the cards that we saw on the field are now back on the player's hands.
Yep. And he's taking a random card out of Nicolas' hand, and it's a Wiretap, I believe, that was just discarded. Yes. That Wiretap would have been pretty awesome when he knows his opponent's got two traps that he was going to be able to interact with immediately. So it's quite unfortunate that he's lost the Wiretap. Vega coming down and activating. The question is Fiendish Chain used? No, he goes straight for the Flying Sea. He might... Does he considers the Fiendish Chain? And no, he allows the D-Nub resolve, because no XE summon can happen here, because Flying Sea's sitting comfortably in the way of that.
Yep. Alright, so the cards in Chris's hand. It's just an Altair with the Flying Sea now gone. His field is the Trigger, and the back row with the Oasis of Dragon Souls, Fiendish Chain, and Mystical Space Typhoon. And on the other side of the field, we currently have quite a few monsters. Just now they were all cleared out, and suddenly Nicolas floods the field again with monsters. We have Altair, Deneb, Vega, and his back row is Oasis of Dragon Souls and Ring of Destruction.
I really like Ring of Destruction. It's interesting to see that a lot of players seem to have chosen to not play it. Even Chris here is chosen to not play it in his main or side deck. It's much more restrictive than the Ring of Destruction used to be. I mean, we've all been... I imagine many of the veteran players remember Ring of Destruction in your draw phase for game.
Yeah, that was the thing.
Yeah, that'll do it. Thank you. And and it's been toned down a lot. I mean, you can still do that, but if you can't use it in the later stages of the game to close out games now, and it can't cause draws anymore because the rules for that was changed recently, which will prevent you seeing games 5 and 6 since we only have 3 dots for each player.
Yeah.
That would have just been a bit more effort to sort that out.
All right, so Chris now with a new monster coming down. That is an Altair, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Ring of Destruction.
It's going to take his life points down very low. It does clear out the driver. Oh, no. No, he Ring of Destruction the Vega. Yeah, I was going to say that getting rid of the Trivia would be a little bit odd since it replaces itself when it's destroyed.
Right.
And it would be a much bigger life point dent to both players.
So who is actually ahead here? Because it's very hard to tell with so many monsters on the field.
Chris is ahead right now because he's got full access to his extra deck with a deck that's designed to use it when Nicolas hasn't. He's going to get to a point where he has to, if he wants to attack over for game, he's going to have to somehow get rid of the Flying Sea in defense mode. But in the meantime, he's just going to take his time, clean up the field, set the game in his in his favor before he thinks about removing the Flying Sea and taking the game. But yeah, we're going to see free material Xe summon, probably another Triver to get the Flying Sea back out of the way, so he can just drop it as soon as the opponent tries to do anything, and he's going to clean that up. So that's a nice way to equalize the scores right here.
Great comeback from Chris Bountaloudis. Now it's 1-1, and we will need a deciding duel to see who is still in a very good position to lock up his spot in the top 64 of this weekend's competition, and who will have to fight extremely hard or might already be eliminated, depending on the tiebreakers. Yeah,
and I imagine the pressure is on for both these guys because they're playing quite intensive decks in the same way that Necros is, where certain cards like Bryonic is every card in your deck, and you've got to go through every scenario very quickly. With these, it's all about the timing of the spell and trap. So the mental fatigue you may be facing, I think it's about 9 o'clock in the evening here now.
Yeah. Already later, it's 9:30.
9:30, and some of these players have probably been up since 8 o'clock in the morning and in the venue, ready to register and make last preparations for their decks. So after a lot of rounds of carefully playing this more control-ish style deck, it starts to wane on you. I mean, some players just have it in them.
Yeah. Although Chris, like all the Greek players, they just play non-stop. They return to the hotel, play through the whole night. It feels like they're not even sleeping.
Oh, I used to be able to do that. And like that used to be what I really want to do. I get back now and I'm like, I'm just so sleepy.
How did this happen? I only played for the last 10 hours.
Yeah, you know, well, I'm not even playing. I feel exhausted just watching these guys.
All right, and again, the hand for Nicolas loading in. We got a Deneb. That's always good to have. And a reinforcement of the army that didn't even stay in the hand for a split second, immediately searching his deck. Is that a Vega? Yes.
Yeah, he's going for Vega.
And we got the complete hand for Chris. 2 copies of Fiendish Chain, 2 copies of Call of the Haunted, Pot of Duality. Pot really important to find that monster, because without a monster you cannot bring anything back with the Call of the Haunted, of course.
Yeah, he's actually used Bujinji Tsukiyomi. I believe that's the card he has in play. It's not loaded in just yet.
Yeah,
which will allow him to discard the cards from his hand and draw cards, and that actually lets him put monsters in the graveyard to make his Call of the Haunteds live. He has Oracle of the Zephyr as well, so he's got a very good start in hand to get his first Trevier to resolve.
And that is not your ordinary opening, is it?
It's probably more of how he's prepared his deck to make sure that he can get the most out of his cards immediately, because one of the biggest problems with Call of the Haunted and stuff is in the early stages of the game, multiple copies don't do anything for you because you haven't got your monsters in the graveyard yet.
Basically what Chris is dealing with here.
Yeah. Oh, Pot of Duality revealing Wiretap, Telenova Alpha, and Raigeki. What else does he have?
He did draw into the Deneb.
Yeah, he has Deneb, Call, Haunted, Fiendish Chain.
So he now has the monster that he needs, that really gets his engine going. 2 Fiendish chains face down, so some sort of defense. The call to bring Deneb back, and this is the wiretap.
He takes the wiretap from Pot of Duality, which is quite understandable when you're facing a very spell and trap heavy match, having the wiretap as the final answer.
Yeah, and there is the Call of the Haunted for Nicolas, and the Bujintai Tsukuyomi was correct. Here it is. Normally the cards with Tsukuyomi in the name are really, really good.
Yeah, have we... I'm trying to think if we've ever seen a bad one. This card is kind of niche. It has its plays, but not. It doesn't appear in everything because it's kind of awkward to summon. I believe you need 2 level 4 light monsters to summon it. But any time that you can play this card, you should absolutely consider it if you've got room. First time we've seen this for the Tellarknight deck, he's actually gone ahead and put that in his Pendulum Zone.
Oh yes.
For what reason would he consider doing that?
So he's also got an Oracle of Sifra that we talked about earlier. And one more card in hand, Nicolas Petz, and that is a Satellar Deneb. All the other cards already on the field. It feels a lot like put everything on the field, return it to hand, put everything on the field.
It kind of just weaves this game state that it wants to play, where it's like attacking into empty field, take a card away from your opponent, reset all my power plays, and it keeps doing this sort of little dance
Cycle, yeah. And for an opponent, that can't be fun to watch this game do that the whole time.
Yeah, that can be really rough if your opponent starts getting this cycle and you haven't actually got ways of stopping it.
Yeah.
It can just it starts to get really demoralizing because every single time you're seeing the Call of the Haunted, the Oracle of the Zephyr, the Phoenix Chains all coming back, and they're all going to get reused at key times.
Speaking of Call of the Haunted, that is what Chris is using to bring back his one monster that he saw so far, the Satellar Deneb. And Nicolas has no way of stopping this. He is missing the Telenova Alpha.
He goes for his free material. He tries the trivia. Might.
But it looks almost like Chris would be gaining more of an advantage here than Nicolas, doesn't it?
It's difficult to say because...
Oh, he's using another effect. And there's a Phoenix Chain to stop the effect of Trivia.
Yeah. Okay, he's attacking into Trevor to be able to play his Altair next turn. Well, to play it later in this turn, I believe. Is that what he has in his hand?
We know for a fact that he has got a Mystical Space Typhoon, the MST.
Oh, he's got another Call of the Haunted. Face down.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, he can get his D-Nut back. Mystical Space Typhoon being played.
And you're always going to hit something good with the Mystical Space Typhoon in this matchup, don't you?
Yeah, when you see those continuous traps like Call of the Haunted and Oasis of Dragon Souls, chaining directly to them after you've seen them so you know definitely what your opponent's getting out of them gives you the strategic advantage that you have control over what the end result of that Mystical Space Typhoon is. You can shoot it straight into the back row, but you're usually going to do that when your opponent has fewer spells and traps, and you want to force through a big play because you don't want to risk running into Solemn Warning, which we saw just get destroyed, or any number of other responses that you can't deal with. Otherwise, you kind of want to hold those Mystical Space Typhoons back for when you know exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah. Alright, so Chris now without any cards in his hand left, and while it looks like he's got a lot of cards on the field, half of them are face up and won't do anything else now. So basically he's left with a Deneb and a Wiretap.
The Wiretap is pretty helpful here. That's going to be live almost the entire match, considering that both of these players, half of their decks are trap
cards. Yeah. Alright. And Nicolas Petz still got the Tsukuyomi on the field.
Yeah, I don't believe it has any materials left for him to use the effect, but it's 2300 defense is pretty respectable. It's going to keep out all of the the level 4 Tellarknights from.
Yeah. And then of course he's still got the Deltaros, but it's forced to not attack thanks to that fiendish chain.
Yeah, the Triver being locked down now. Okay, so we're going to see Unikal High sending Vega to the graveyard, which is sending a signal that there's another revival card in play.
Although that is actually not correct so far, because we only got the wiretap in Chris's back row.
It's a misleading sign to send to Nicolas, because he could be expecting him to flip that and then drop another guy from his hand during his opponent's end phase. So he's concealing his card pretty well then.
All right, and Nicolas still has a Deneb in hand. What's his next play gonna be, or is he needs to wait for Chris to finish his turn, and depending on what he does?
Yeah, he really can't make any decisions what he's going to do with that Deneb yet until he sees how Chris wants to leave the field. All of these cards are starting to turn face up now, which is taking away all of the unknowns from the match, so then he can start making much more informed decisions.
Because sometimes even during your opponent's turn, you're already 100% sure this is what I'm going to do next. But this is not one of these cases, because these decks have so many options of summoning different monsters to the field, with almost all of the extra deck cards being rank 4s. So what do we see here?
Chris has just played a new rank, one of the new rank 4s.
Ptolemaeus.
Yes,
Ptolemaeus.
He has a very powerful effect to attach Tellarknight monsters from your extra deck to it as material, and you can, during either player's turn as a quick effect, attach 3 materials from him to special summon a level 5 or rank 5 or higher. Now I believe it's rank 5 monster. So that's going to get him his Constellar Pleiades from the extra deck.
And you can skip your opponent's next turn if you have 7 Exceed materials attached to it.
That almost never happens, but there's that one guy who's pulled it off, and high five to that man.
Yeah.
Or girl, either way. Yeah, so he did go for the Constellar Pleiades, and he's going to activate the effect to return.
At first, it seems like it's a better version of that, of the card that finishes the game in 20 turns. What was it again?
Oh, Final Countdown.
Final Countdown, yeah. But it really isn't, I guess, because it's so hard to set up.
There's a lot of fun ones that want you to acquire tons of material. There's a Ghost Rick card that actually wins the game if you can get 10 or more materials on it, and it's one of those ones where the card's designed for people that want sort of sit at home with their kitchen tables, and they are a group that they love pulling this combo off, even if it only goes off once every 50, 60 games.
Yeah, they are happy with that. They will tell you about that one game for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, that'll be the one YouTube video you see, and it's like, oh wow, yeah, that's a really overpowered combo that worked once in a million times. But you know what? He got it. He got it. Right,
and there we see another Fiendish chain being flipped to this time deny Chris's monster its effect. Pleiades. And so much disruption on both sides of the field, and finally the wiretap, of course, being activated. Pretty good timing here, I guess. And now Chris has a couple of face-down cards again, so he has a number of options.
Oh yeah, he's playing his Zephyr monster again. So this is going to allow him to start going after Chris's Spell and Trap zone. So set cards aren't safe. So we're going to see Solemn Warning being played, which is going to, because the summon doesn't resolve, the Pendulum monster goes to the graveyard instead of going back to the extra deck. And another Call of the Haunted. I believe that's actually like 6 Call of the Haunteds this game so far.
This card used to be on 1.
I remember that. I remember that from a long time ago. And it slowly crept back off up the Forbidden Unlimited list as we found that it was much less powerful than it was because of its status as a trap card. And yeah, it came back to free, although I know there's still quite a few people in the community who despise this type of card being at free. but it seems to be fitting in quite well, and it's really working out for Chris and Nicolas in this tournament.
Yep. So Chris has just set a Mind Crush, but without cards in his hand, he cannot activate it. So that's not too good. He's got one more Fiendish Chain face down with one face up. So he does have some sort of protection. Nicolas does have an Altair and a Mystical Space Typhoon. So he can make sure that the opponents, that Chris's Fiendish Chain doesn't do anything here.
Yeah, he can force through that Altair play.
Alright, so there it is. Saturnite Altair coming down. It's a Fiendish Chain, and
Mystical Space Typhoon being played to make sure this play goes through.
was it on a different Fiendish
Oh,
Chain?
no, yeah, he let
was on
the
a
Fiendish
different
Chain get
Fiendish Chain.
flipped, and then he Mystical Space Typhoon the one that was blocking his Triver, so he could then get the...
Then use Trivers. But it seemed almost... Yeah, that didn't happen in the chain, of course. That happened afterwards, because you cannot activate the effect right away.
Yeah, that's actually really cool. So Triver's revival effect has been allowed him to get another Satellar Knight out in the battle phase, which has allowed him to take out the D-Nub, and then allow him to make in another Egg-Seed monster. So he's turned around from this really sort of horrible field where it's kind of all clogged by his opponent's continuous cards. He's going for Daigusto Emerald.
Ah, another way of recycling all of the cards in your deck if you do not want to go and return everything to your hand.
Yeah, it's really good for putting the Altairs back in your deck so your D-Nubs can keep getting them out and you can keep the cycle going on and on.
Yeah. So the Stellar Knights, they really don't mind the games lasting a little bit longer.
No, these Tellarknight deck is very equipped to go into later stages of the game, unless like all of its key plays to refresh its hand gets negated or prevented in some way. It's a deck that can comfortably go on and on because it can play Daigusto Emerald or other things to recycle its monsters. There's even a Tellarknight that allows you to shuffle 5 monsters back into your deck to draw a card. That's not being played in either of these lists, but the Tellarknight deck has plenty of options to play the late game.
All right. So Chris did draw into an Altair.
That's pretty good.
No, did he search for it with Deneb, I think?
Yes.
Yeah, there we go. So Deneb helps him to search for Altair, and those are his 2 cards. But he doesn't have another normal summon, so he's forced to pass here. And Nicolas might be in a position where he can wrap things up here.
Yeah, Chris is looking pretty low on life, and he doesn't have a way of stopping. Although in that game 1, he did reveal the Honest to his opponent, so that may make Nicolas a little bit hesitant to attack.
But I think he saw that Chris just searched for Altair with Deneb.
Yeah.
And he only has 1 card in hand. So
Yeah, then sorry.
So he's got perfect information, basically. He knows exactly what's waiting for him. Or, well, to put it a different way, nothing is waiting for him, really. And his follow-ups, possible follow-ups, is a Zephyr Tuban, a Breakthrough Skill, and Altair.
Zephyr Tuban is... Yeah, it's the one that allows him to go after set cards, but there are no set cards in play at the moment. Nope, Wow, it is really late here. Actually, I keep mixing these two up.
All right, and now what are they debating? The cards in the graveyard?
I'm not sure. I believe they're checking something, or Nicolas is checking to see what his opponent, if he can beat his opponent this turn, or set it up so he can beat his opponent next turn.
Mm.
Oh, he's going to actually pendulum summon. He actually gets the pendulum summon off.
That's not something we see every day, at least not in the Tellarknight deck.
Yeah, and he gets to Triver. Yeah, there it is, and he can now get his Fiendish Chain back. He gets his Oracle at the Zephyr. He gets back both his Pendulum Scales, which he can then use as monsters. That's really cool. I don't believe in a future match we've ever seen a Tellarknight successfully pendulum summon. So, world first for Nicolas.
Yeah, and it's not just for fun and games. It's actually really useful.
Yeah, this one's really paid off. And now he's taking the very limited options away from Chris, and he's only got a sparse 1,500 life points left.
And at the moment, he's got Altair and Fiendish Chain. What is a card that he wants to draw here that can turn things around?
Okay, so he has the Altair. So the Altair, he's got just draw another Fiendish Chain. The problem is if he takes a trivia off the field, it summons another monster, and we're going to see another big summon next turn coming from Nicolas. So destroying the breakthrough skill, and there's a handshake.
And yeah, that's immediately the handshake.
I honestly think can't think of
there
anything.
Wasn't really anything in the deck, right?
He's got so many trap cards that anything that he draws is going to have to wait a turn before it can be used. He's so low on life points, he can't really afford to wait for anything, and he didn't really have. Yeah, he didn't really have anything to get out of that.
Right. So the German Nicolas Petz putting himself in a very, very strong position. I think he's on 1 loss, maybe 2 losses, I'm not 100% sure. Around 40th place now. Chris Bountaloudis is going to drop in the rankings quite a bit. He was 55th prior to the round. He might be, depending on the tiebreakers, out of competition, but I don't think so. I think he's going to advance today too, with something like 100th place.
I think he just marked a drop there on his match slips.
Oh, you think he's...
I think that's what I just saw, so that probably means he's given up.
Yeah, so also, I mean, the chances are pretty low. If you just sneak into day 2, you need to win both rounds, and then it's still depending on the tiebreakers if you can sneak into those top 64.
Yeah, it's a lot of complicated math, and ultimately it may not pay off. It may just be more in your interest to go play some public events and see what else we've got going on this weekend.
Yeah, and of course we got a lot going on this weekend. And public events is one of the keywords, really. We had a number of them today. We played already 12 winner mats yesterday. So for the European Championships, players can already play public events on Friday, which is normally not possible at the YCS.
Yeah, normally we're still setting up the venue, and that's one of the big problems when we don't have tables down for you guys to play on. That's why we don't run the events on.
Yeah, for half our staff, this is like a 5-day event, really, because they start setting up on Wednesday. Wednesday they basically arrive here. Thursday they start setting up, so we can get going on Friday, and then they leave on Monday. So quite a big investment, in fact, for players. It's just a 2-day event.
Yeah, it's a lot's gone into this, a lot of effort, because we know it's like the highest level of play for 99.9% of players in Europe. This is as far as they're going to go, but they've worked very hard to get here, and they deserve the best tournament experience they can get, which is what we're aiming to deliver on.
Right. We have a few treats waiting for you, even though it's this late in the day. We got a country breakdown ready. We got a deck breakdown ready. We are not going to show them just now. First, we're going to have a very quick interview with Nicolas Petz, who just won that round. So let's take a look at that in just a second. Then after that, we're going to be back with the highlights of the match. We're going to have those breakdowns for you. And then we got yet another treat, because you've been asking for it. You want to see PJ Tierney on camera. We're going to have PJ Tierney on camera.
You're actually going to get him on camera?
Not live, because we are going to do the city tour, and he's going to tell us everything about Dublin there is to know.
Yeah, okay. I was just thinking there for a second. PJ never goes live. It's like against his contract or something.
All right. And with that, just give us a second to set up the interview, and we're going to be right back with that.
See you soon.